Have you ever considered how the expansive, diverse country of Canada came to be? Our journey begins thousands of years ago, with the first inhabitants of this great land. The indigenous peoples, in all their rich and diverse cultures, were the first to call Canada home. From the Inuit of the Arctic, the Iroquoians in the east, and the Pacific coast's Haida, the indigenous peoples shaped the cultural landscape of Canada long before the first Europeans set foot on its shores. Each indigenous group, with their own unique traditions, languages, and practices, painted a vibrant tapestry of life across the Canadian landscape. They thrived, harnessed the land, and navigated the oceans, leaving us with a rich heritage that continues to resonate across Canada today. We then leap forward in time to around the year AD 1000. The Norse, led by Leif Erikson, ventured across the Atlantic, reaching the northeastern shores of Canada. These Norse voyages were, in many ways, a prelude to the age of exploration that would transform the world in the centuries to follow. As we approach the late 15th century, a new wave of explorers began to arrive. Primarily from France and Britain, these Europeans were driven by a thirst for discovery and the promise of wealth. They encountered a world unlike anything they had ever seen, a vast wilderness teeming with life and potential. Yet this was not an uninhabited land. The meeting of these European explorers and the indigenous peoples would set the stage for centuries of cooperation, conflict, and change. The French established the first permanent European settlement in today's Quebec City, while the British set up their stronghold in what is now Newfoundland. This marked the beginning of a long and complex relationship between the indigenous peoples, the French, and the British, a relationship that would shape the nation we know today as Canada. Thus began a new chapter in the history of Canada, marked by exploration and the clash of civilizations. This was the birth of a nation that would grow, evolve, and continue to write its story. The early centuries of European exploration set the stage for the power struggle that would shape Canada's future. As Europe's thirst for new lands and resources grew, two major powers emerged on the Canadian landscape: France and Britain. Both nations saw the vast, rich lands of North America as a prize to be claimed. The 17th and 18th centuries witnessed an intense rivalry between these two powers, a rivalry that would deeply influence the cultural, political, and social fabric of Canada. The French were the first Europeans to establish a permanent settlement in Canada, founding Quebec City in 1608. The British, not to be outdone, established their first permanent settlement in Newfoundland in 1610. This marked the beginning of a period of intense competition and conflict, with both powers seeking to expand their territories and influence. This rivalry culminated in the 7 Years' War, a global conflict that saw battles fought on the plains of Abraham in Quebec. This war was not just about territory. It was a struggle for dominion, for control over the destiny of North America. The war ended in 1763 with the signing of the Treaty of Paris. This treaty was a game changer. France, defeated and weary, ceded most of its North American territories to Britain. The vast lands of Canada, from the Atlantic to the Mississippi, now fell under British control. This transfer of power had profound implications. The French-speaking population, the Canadians, found themselves under British rule. This set the stage for future tensions between the English and French-speaking populations, tensions that continue to shape Canada's identity today. But the Treaty of Paris did more than redraw the map of North America. It set the stage for the emergence of a new nation, a nation shaped by the struggles and dreams of both the French and British. The British, now the dominant power, would significantly influence the development of this new nation. With the Treaty of Paris, Britain emerged as the dominant power, significantly influencing the development of Canada. The American Revolution had a profound impact on Canada, didn't it? It certainly did, as it was the catalyst for a major migration that would forever shape the nation's cultural, political, and social landscapes. After the American Revolution, those who had remained loyal to the British Crown found themselves in an uncomfortable position. These loyalists, as they came to be known, faced hostility and persecution in the newly independent United States, and so they sought refuge elsewhere, with many choosing to migrate north to British-controlled Canada. From the late 1770s to the early 1800s, tens of thousands of loyalists made the journey to Canada. They brought with them a diverse range of backgrounds and experiences, enriching the cultural tapestry of Canada. They established new communities, injecting a distinctive Loyalist influence into the architecture, language, and traditions of the regions they settled. But the Loyalists' influence was not confined to the cultural sphere. Politically, they played a significant role in shaping Canada's early governance structures. The Loyalists, steeped in British customs and legal traditions, championed the establishment of constitutional law and a parliamentary system. They were instrumental in ensuring the continuation of British legal and administrative systems, which remain foundational to Canada's government today. The social landscape of Canada was also transformed by the arrival of the Loyalists. Their presence bolstered the population of English-speaking settlers in Canada, leading to a shift in the demographic balance. This surge in the English-speaking population ultimately led to the division of Quebec, a predominantly French-speaking province, into Upper and Lower Canada in 1791. The Loyalist migration to Canada is a significant chapter in the nation's history, marking a period of substantial change and development. The Loyalists were more than just refugees seeking safety. They were nation builders, contributing to the cultural, political, and social fabric of what would become modern-day Canada. The influx of Loyalists not only changed the demographic makeup of Canada, but also paved the way for the division of Quebec into Upper and Lower Canada. Indeed, the legacy of the Loyalists continues to resonate in Canada today. How did a group of British colonies become one unified nation? This is a question that takes us back to the mid-19th century, a pivotal period in the history of Canada. In the early 1860s, the British North American colonies found themselves at a crossroads. External threats loomed large, and internal disputes over governance and economic interests were causing rifts. Something had to change, and change it did, in the form of a series of notable events that set the stage for the Confederation. One such event was the Charlottetown Conference of 1864. Originally intended as a meeting to discuss the union of maritime colonies, it quickly evolved into something much bigger. Representatives from the province of Canada, made up of present-day Ontario and Quebec, attended the conference and proposed a plan for a broader union. This idea of a united British North America, where colonies could pool their resources and strengthen their defenses, was appealing. It was a turning point, setting the course for the road to Confederation. 2 years later, in 1866, the London Conference took place. Delegates from the provinces of Canada, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia gathered in London to draft the final details of the proposed Confederation. Their efforts culminated in the British North America Act, a piece of legislation that would forever alter the course of Canadian history. Passed by the British Parliament in 1867, the British North America Act created the Dominion of Canada. This act marked the birth of a new political entity, transforming the group of British colonies into a self-governing nation. It was a significant moment, symbolizing a shift from colonial rule to a more autonomous form of governance. The Confederation marked the beginning of a new era in Canada's history, transforming it from a group of colonies to a self-governing nation. The road to Confederation was one of diplomacy, negotiation, and vision, a journey that shaped Canada into the nation it is today. Once unified, Canada began to expand rapidly, didn't it? This expansion was not just physical, but also political and cultural. The late 19th century saw a westward push that was nothing short of monumental. Canada, as we know it today, began to take shape. Let's first consider the geographical expansion. After Confederation, Canada's borders stretched only as far as Ontario, but this changed dramatically. New provinces joined the Confederation, including Manitoba in 1870, British Columbia in 1871, and Prince Edward Island in 1873. The vast, wild territories of the Yukon and the Northwest were also brought into the fold. This westward expansion was largely driven by the completion of the Canadian Pacific Railway in 1885. This colossal project, taking more than 5 years and employing thousands of workers, was a testament to human tenacity and ingenuity. The railway didn't just connect the coasts, it knit together disparate communities, fostering a sense of national unity and shared identity. Yet it's crucial to recognize that this period of growth and expansion was not without its darker side. The indigenous peoples of these lands paid a heavy price. As settlers moved in, indigenous communities were often dislocated, their rights ignored, and their cultures disrespected. This is a part of Canada's history that must not be overlooked or forgotten. Moreover, the creation of new provinces and territories transformed the political landscape. It diversified the voices and perspectives within Canada's government, leading to a more representative and inclusive democracy. Each new province added its own unique flavor to the Canadian mosaic, enriching the nation's cultural tapestry. So this period of expansion and growth was a time of transformation for Canada. From a cluster of British colonies, it had grown into a vast, diverse, and independent nation. This was a time of excitement and promise, but also of conflict and struggle. This period of expansion and growth solidified Canada's identity as a nation. It was a time of defining who Canadians were and what kind of country they wanted to build. It set the stage for the Canada we know today, diverse, vibrant, and ever-evolving. The 20th century brought significant changes for Canada on both the national and international stage. As the new century dawned, Canada found itself drawn into the global conflicts of the world wars. In the First World War, more than 600,000 Canadians served in the armed forces, making significant contributions to key battles and earning international respect. The Second World War saw Canada again play a vital role, with more than 1 million Canadians serving. These wars, while devastating, also led to a surge in Canada's economy and technological advancements, propelling the nation forward. The interwar years were marked by the Great Depression. Like many nations, Canada faced severe economic hardship. The prairie provinces were hit particularly hard, with drought and dust storms exacerbating the economic crisis. However, the resilience of the Canadian people shone through, and the country emerged from the Depression stronger than before. Throughout the 20th century, Canada's relationship with Britain steadily evolved. The Statute of Westminster in 1931 recognized Canada's autonomy, but the final ties were not severed until the Canada Act of 1982. This act patriated the Canadian Constitution, marking Canada's full legal independence from the UK. Legislative changes were also a hallmark of the 20th century. The introduction of social welfare programs, the expansion of voting rights, and the official recognition of French as a second national language were all significant milestones. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms, part of the Canada Act, ensured the protection of individual rights and liberties, cementing Canada's commitment to multiculturalism and diversity. On the international stage, Canada's reputation as a peacekeeping nation was established. From the Suez Crisis in 1956 to numerous United Nations missions, Canada has consistently advocated for peace and diplomacy. The 20th century was a defining period for Canada, shaping the country we know today. From war and depression to independence and legislative milestones, Canada navigated the challenges and changes with resilience and determination, emerging as the diverse, inclusive, and respected nation it is today. In recent decades, Canada has continued to evolve, hasn't it? With the dawning of the 21st century, the nation has seen dramatic shifts in its social, political, and cultural landscapes. One of the most significant of these changes has been a surge in immigration. People from around the globe have been drawn to Canada's promise of opportunity, prosperity, and inclusivity. This influx has added a rich tapestry of cultures, languages, and traditions to the Canadian mosaic, making it a truly multicultural nation. Parallel to this, a powerful wave of Indigenous rights movements has swept across the country. Indigenous peoples have been increasingly vocal, demanding recognition, respect, and justice. They've striven for the acknowledgement of past wrongs, the protection of land rights, and the preservation of their cultures and languages. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, established in the early 21st century, has been instrumental in furthering this cause, bringing to light the dark history of residential schools and seeking to heal the wounds of the past. But Canada's evolution isn't confined within its borders. The country has been extending its influence on the global stage. It's been playing a crucial role in international peacekeeping missions since the mid-20th century, and its commitment to human rights, democracy, and the rule of law has been unwavering. Canada's leadership in tackling climate change, through its commitment to the Paris Agreement, and in championing gender equality, through its feminist international assistance policy, has been commendable. This modern era has also seen Canada face new challenges and dilemmas. From grappling with the complexities of the digital age to navigating the tumultuous waters of global politics. Yet through it all, the country has remained resilient, continually adapting and striving for progress. Today, Canada stands as a testament to its rich and complex history, a diverse nation that continues to evolve. A nation that, while acknowledging and learning from its past, is unafraid to face the future with hope and determination. From its first inhabitants to the modern era, Canada's history is a fascinating journey, isn't it? It's a story that begins with the early Indigenous peoples, their rich cultures and intricate societies. Then we sail into the age of European exploration, where the likes of John Cabot and Jacques Cartier stepped foot on this vast land, marking the beginning of European control. We've seen the influx of loyalists, loyal to the crown, seeking refuge after the American Revolution, and how their arrival played a pivotal role in shaping Canada's destiny. We've walked the road to Confederation, a journey that transformed Canada from a loose collection of British colonies into a united nation. We've witnessed Canada's expansion and growth, the trials and triumphs of the 20th century, and the defining moments that have sculpted the 21st century, shaping Canada into the diverse and expansive nation we know today. So, the next time you think of Canada, remember the centuries of history that have shaped this diverse and expansive nation.